Hello, and welcome back to our weekly astrological transits. And well, we are kind of in a new world. And it's just sort of like dawn of the new world. But we do get a little reprieve. Things, as the planets, they dance in, and it's like dipping your toes into the water, and then you pull back, and then you get pushed in or you dive in. So that's sort of where we're at. But I wanted to I did a little graphics here on this because I found this new tool on here um, that that I can use. Anyway, here is something I just wanted to point out. This is, as we're coming into this week, we're into the Sag moon. I love Sag moons. Um, it just kind of lightens things up a little bit. You get a little shiny object syndrome. You get a little, I don't know, for me, I was like distracted, but that doesn't help with Uranus being that newly into Gemini, and then the moon going through the opposite sign. And to me, I think, Gemini and Sag are similar. It's like if you look at opposite signs all the way across, those always seem very similar to me. I think the biggest difference would be maybe um, Gemini would be maybe more internal, and then uh, Jupiter, with that Jupiterian influence of Sagittarius would maybe be more external or outward. It's like over there, or the shiny object. Look over there. Let's travel. Where Gemini is the twins right there. It's two coming out of one, and Sagittarius is, how do we say it? That yeah, it would be like one. It's the other way. It's the one coming back into two. You got the man horse, and then the other you've got twins. So they're like a two into one and a one into two. So it's a really interesting dynamic, but they're very similar. And as we move into this week, we have this new position of Uranus for the next 7 years. And today, let's see, I moved in yesterday, and it will move. Let's see what I put it there. It'll turn. It's interesting. It's like it's been direct, but it changed signs, but it will turn retrograde on September 15th. So we have like all of July to August, August to September. So it's like kind of a short stint being direct in Gemini. So it's going to retrograde on September 5th in Gemini. So it's going to, be at this 0 and 1 degree. It's going to be, of course, going over its shadow soon. But it's going to go to 1 degree, 20, like a degree and a half. It's going to go full 1.5 degrees into Gemini. And then it'll be back, it'll retrograde, and then it'll move back into Taurus on November 7th. So we get a reprieve of this Uranian and Uranus and Gemini energy. And basically it's, you just think disruption, unpredictability, um, enlightening, things that are, invigorating, uh, uh, different, out of the blue, dynamic, definitely breaks up old patterns, sets the stage for new things. So it was interesting, we had the ingressors, it was moving into the sign that Venus ushered it in first. Venus went from her sign, favorite place, it just and then went in first, and then Uranus quickly followed. So, we had that conjunction in Taurus first, and then both of them in Gemini. So very cool. We've had that this year. So anyway, we've got this masculine sign, Gemini's masculine sign. And then over on the other side, I should have done, let me see if I can do this here. Um, let's see, what's the other thing? Hold on. There we go. There it is. There it is. Okay, I think it's here. So we have this dynamic too. There we go. So what we got going on is a sextile trine. So both of the pink lines are the sextiles. So the middle planets are Saturn and Neptune. So there they are, they're fused together. They're there, anything that's like conjunct is like a fusion of that energy. So we have, confused structure. We have we have restructuring confusion. We have putting order into disarray. And then we have breaking down too much order. We have, all that mix of that. And we can see definitely now that that is happening in the world and in different things around us. And we're at those beginning stages. And, being Aries, beginning, of course, and then they are definitely at that, beginning stage, the beginning of the beginning. So we have that fused energy. Okay. So you got to kind of think of them as a pair, not just Saturn at the moment, not just Neptune. They're together. So it's this, it's kind of like, there's something that's like got a structure that it's like so gossamer, when you move it, you're afraid it's going to fall apart, right? It's kind of like, oh God, I can't even think of it. It's like lace or like those pizza cookies, those real delicate things. That it's just like it's osteoporotic kind of, it's like Swiss cheese, or it's like the bone is like porous. So I'm seeing is like Saturn is the structure that's there, and Neptune is the not structure. And is it building up? Is it getting stronger to that? Or is it taking down the old? Or is it both? And it's both in all things around us. So that is the core. That's what I wanted to point that out. That is the crux or the core of this energy that we're in for a while. And right now, if we go over to the Venus Uranus area, the pink area right here on top, yeah, I said it right, Venus. So when they were conjunct, and they're still conjunct, it's only 4 degrees away, but it's still, we have that, that little blessing of Venus there. Maybe things coming out of the blue, maybe in your favor, or that you didn't think about, or that was pretty cool, or might lighten the tension a little bit, on some levels. But we have, those are masculine signs, Aries masculine sign, and then we'll get over to Pluto in a minute and masculine signs. So it's a very outward moving group of conversations. What do we have? 5 planets involved in this? And then Venus is going to quickly get out of the scene. She was just there kind of setting everything up and going, okay, I'm done with my shift. I'm cruising on, man. See you guys later. So, but we'll still have 4 main planets there for a while because those are like, all the outer planets. We have, you know, um, yeah, I mean, that's the biggies, right? We got Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, and then we have Saturn, all of the outer planets. So they're going to be in this conversation for a while. Now they're going to move a little bit, and it's kind of like, you're cruising down the highway, and you got your cruise control on, and how you're going up and down the hills or whatever. You'll feel the gas come on a little bit, and then it lets off, and it comes on a little bit. That's sort of how it's going to be. So interesting. If you have things, look at, we have that 0, 1, and 2 degrees. Neptune, I mean, Pluto was just at 3, it was at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to get, yeah, look at it, it was 58 minutes. So earlier we had that arrangement, which was kind of cool. So these are the big conversations. So I just wanted to point that out. So we have sextile from the Saturn Neptune group over to Pluto, sextiling there, and then sextiling up to the Uranus and Venus. But she's going to get out of the picture, but she's there now. And then Uranus trine over to Pluto. See, that's an air sign and an air sign. And then we have a masculine and masculine over this way, and then masculine, masculine this way. Those are sextile. All right. Well, out of the way. I guess let me actually, I want to move this out of the way so it's, as I move stuff around, it's not still there. So I'm going to move time. I'm going to move time. Okay. All right, so that's in place. So what do we really mean by all that? And it's coming in now. So we have that, structure on structure, which was, I said, that's the Saturn and Neptune thing, and then Uranus. So we're going to get like monkey wrenches and different things and stuff out of the blue. You didn't think of that. And then Pluto is just going to be there in the depth, just in the depth, just bringing up stuff, ironing out. It's like cleaning the closets. and a lot of it will be more radical or different perspectives and points of view. It's not going to be conventional at all. I have to emphasize that, especially with, trining over to Uranus. So this very, I don't know, I would say super uptone, it could be very mirthful. Um, if you like a little mischief, if you're not afraid of being irreverent and mischievous, every so often, that's kind of what this energy reminds me of. You think of something out of the blue to do something, like that it's like that person really needs a little humbling. Let's do this, or that's just that kind of mirthful, sort of funny energy that reminds me of, and then you get that karmic, stuff from the depths of Pluto. It's like, we really need to make this jerk aware of their actions. So, we're gonna just do a little funny one, kind of like the old candid camera, but maybe a little bit better, a little higher minded. Did you know that you did this? Or, oh my goodness. So I think that kind of energy is sort of what it seems like to me. Those are the big players. So we have again Uranus, upsetting, unconventional. How can we screw things up, or how can we make light of stuff, or how can we have somebody not take themselves so seriously, or how can we give them some new information, or how can we have them see something from a different point of view? And Pluto is here, uh, digging the depths of Uranus. So this is interesting because Uranian energy, Aquarian energy, it's that that old ruler, Aquarius, loves, Uranus is just like, love that, love that, love that. The ruler. So it's that electrical, up there from above, looking down, expansive, but fixed. It's like, I'm doing this for you. It's my conception. It's, my elevation. It's my perspective. And then Uranus is like, oh yeah. But Gemini being there is like, well, there's two of us here. There, did you know you were, being looked at from this perspective and angle too? So it's like a real communicative. I didn't want to say surreal because it's not surreal. It's logical because it's outward, it's masculine, it's manifesting, it's punctual, it's exciting, um, and it's movement. So I think this is what we need. We need to shake up all this stuff that's settled out, settled in the cracks and settled in, and things that we've all fallen asleep about and need to be woken up and shifted. So this is big. We have all those players, all those outer planets there in that pattern for a while. Now, everything else, we've got the moon. Well, the moon will be interesting in a few days, in Friday. Um, we'll get there in a second, but before I forget, you can see the moon in Sag there. It's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be moving into Capricorn, so we'll have a little bit more of a serious tone, more responsible, maybe less laughter and more tasks accomplished. Less maybe mirth and uplifting, and a little bit more toe the line, and let's get her done, get your work done, be a little more serious, be some more mindful, kind of energy for next 2.5 days. Then then when the moon goes into, well, and we'll talk about the full moon in just a second, but then the moon will go into Aquarius and co-join Pluto, right? It'll be like, as soon as, for those few hours that it'll be there, it will be activating that thing that I showed you, I don't know how you call it, that double sextile trine thing. So the emotions and the self-righteousness can get in there because the moon is going to be right there with Pluto in Aquarius, and there could be a lot of self-righteousness. There could be a lot of holier than thou, up on a soapbox kinds of attitudes. And if you have things at that degrees or know people that do, just watch out of that. That could be a little proselytization. Okay, so a lot of that was like prep for the week, and that's basically it. looking at the other conversations, there's not a lot at other degrees. Look at the sun is at 16, kind of a wide, making some maybe wide aspects to Mars and it's uh, to Mars and uh, Mercury. But as the sun moves more, it's going to get further away from those degrees. But anyway, Mercury's going fast as well. So they're kind of like in that inconjunct, one sign apart energy. They don't really have a lot to say to each other. And then Mercury over to Mars, same thing. So, we have these midpoint planets. I showed you these here. These are actually the midpoint, this Neptune, Saturn of these that I showed you in the middle. They're right in the beginning, but they're the midpoint of it, right? Those are two signs away, 30, 60, 30, 60. And then this would be the midpoint of these as well. So if they were all 16, it would be perfect, right? Then this would be the exact, in the middle of those. But anyway, we have the sun over to Mars. That's a little bit nicer, because they're both feminine energy. That's kind of nice here because it's harmonizing Mars. Maybe it's pulling that energy into useful it's like all that outward energy, with the outer planets, the inner ones, these are the couple, with Jupiter in Cancer, we've got a little bit of that feminine energy, and then Mars here, the masculine planet is having to babysit or is having to do housework. It's having to come and do things, put energy internal into cleaning, into organizing, into manifesting, into putting things into the solid, earthy way. I love when Mars goes into Virgo. Personally, I think it's a good sign. It gets stuff done. It's applied. It's not just when it's been in Leo, just like blah 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 blah. Just all this hot air and talk and drama. And it's like, oh God, and not another one. So now, it's actually getting some practicality, getting some stuff done. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling it. I've been much more active, putting things together, organizing a bit more, seeing things in more of a logical way and putting energy, maybe starting to appropriate things. It's like, okay, if I want to get this, I got to do this, this, and this, kind of thing. So that's really good for putting stuff together to how you want. And in the nice relationship with the sun and Jupiter, that's really good. They're still fairly close in orb where we have that nice effect. And the communications with Mercury don't really need to talk. You can just bypass that because now Mercury has picked up the drama, the Leo energy. So there's that. So and then with Mars, it's just Mars would just rather, it's like the little brother. It's like I'd rather just ignore it. So that's kind of the gist of the week. We have tomorrow, we've got our moon moving into Capricorn, where said things get, a little more serious, but that's going to be nice. The moon will be making a trine over Mars. So this can be like your emotions for the next 2.5 days when the moon is moving through Capricorn. You can make use of this energy. You'll feel like getting cleaning. You'll feel like painting. You'll feel like cleaning the cabinet, making lists, organizing, making things easier for you in the future. So it's kind of like the self-talk might be pumping yourself up. It's like, if we do this, it will be way better. Doing this thing, or, my life will be so much easier if I just get this. And you'll get it done. You'll do it because Mars is there. It's like it's putting that into that action. And it's getting closer, to the South Node, which is easier, I think, to get rid of material crap and to get rid of stuff that does slow you down. Getting more on that spiritual side of it's like, do I really need this? Stuffed bunny from third grade? Do I really need it? Or whatever. It's like, or can I just lighten this load? And so there's that this Virgo energy, and it could get sarcastic and nitpicky and mean. So watch that. That it can get hypercritical. It can get holier than thou. Especially when I showed you the aspect, when the moon comes over and joins Pluto the next day, which will or later. But anyway, we're coming into here before I forget. I'll probably go right past it. We're coming into the full moon. see, it'll be past it here. Just about. No, there we go. Okay, perfect. So as we come into Thursday, we get that full moon in Capricorn. So it's like again, it's bringing things to a culmination. It's putting in that hard work, and then again with it being in sextile and trine over to Mars and the South Node. South Node is really close to this time, but it's going to be, I think, easier to maybe reach out to others less fortunate. Easier to maybe put energy into knowing what they need. It's like with the Virgo, it's like the Virgos will know. It's like, oh, I know they need this, that, and the other, and it'll help get it done. So I think this moon is good. I think it balances some of the, overextension of this Cancerian energy, this um maudlin sentimentalism, manipulation, hyper focus on things maybe that are too. It's like home, but it's not like everybody's home. It's like um, family, but not everybody's family. It's kind of slightly removed. Having the Capricorn full moon time of year, but with Jupiter there, I think it's going to kind of maybe balance that out a little bit. As Jupiter, is into this now beginning part of this expansive phase, of being in its exalted place. It can just chill and, start with the bonbons and, a hyper luxury and then or making overzealousness. So I think this is kind of going to be trimming the fat a little bit with this full moon. I like that. I like that it can help balance that. And then I like it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's nice that it's in the degrees that aren't going to bother these things, the initial uh, aspect group of aspect that I showed you when we first started. So it's not going to be into that area. And it gets a little help again from Mars. It's still, it's 5 degrees away, but it's still in that same element, but it's not bothered by a lot of stuff. It's like, look, there's not much, hardly anything there at that degree. So it's kind of quiet. It's not making a lot of other aspects. See, um, Mercury is a slight inconjunct, but it's a little bit far. I mean, and the moon moves fast, so there may be a little spouting off, kind of dramatic energy, but again, it's actually maybe making a degree is, when it hit the 13 degrees with Mercury. But I think, maybe that alone, we get a little bit before the moon gets full, because then, it will be trining over to that Mars, and then it'll be, you know, the inconjunct or the nothing in common over to Mercury. So there's maybe a little bit of a cantankerous uh, mood or something you maybe not. It's like, no, I can't do this. I'm not going to settle for it. I can't do it. It doesn't make sense. Something like that. It's just not going to get along. All right. So that's the big deal with the moon. It's one of the things, but it's not, again, making a whole lot of other aspects. So I think it's going to be relatively quiet. We've kind of gone through a lot of stuff. Things aren't at the degrees where they're whole, uh, are real noisy, except for these few things that I pointed out. This was this pattern that we started out with here. Oops, got the eraser. And just to point it out again, now the moon's over here, and then we've got our original group there in the middle, and then over here. So this is our trine, right? And then we have the 60 degrees on either side, the sextiles. So this is all, whoops, kind of goofy then. This is all flowing and masculine and outward. And then we have this little group here of our feminine, and then over to, and I'm drawing it square and round. I'm doing the opposite, but anyway, here's our feminine sextile, and the sun is closer over here. We got this little group Jupiter's a little farther away, but we've got a little conversation here of some feminine energy. And this is, even though there's few here, it's the sun and it's Jupiter, so this is big, right? These are big. Yeah, so I think almost even within all of this dynamic, this outward expansive energy, I think the inner feminine will kind of still win because we have the sun and Jupiter and Mars, the driver, So Mars is like, okay, I'll drive these two wherever they're at. They're the big honchos here. So I think everything kind of at the end of the day, all the said and done and coming off of that full moon, it's a lot of outward blah, 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 and then a lot of inner reflection and understanding. This is a good out breath, in breath kind of a time. It's like this big exhale and outward masculine energy, and then we got the where we're taking it in, and we got that we're bringing it in. We're just after this, so it's like on Friday, I think we kind of have that assimilation, but it's not a real noisy time. Thank goodness. I think we've gone through a lot. I think this is sort of some assimilation time for us. I hope this can help you see some of these better. I think these are just patterns that are just really cool. All right, so that was Friday. Yeah, I showed you that. Oh, and then coming to Saturday, then Saturday and Sunday, we can see Saturn starting to slow down. It's stationary. So it's going to go retrograde right there at 1 degree. So it's really powerful. And Uranus is really powerful. And they're sextile because I already went over that. They're both masculine signs here. But they're still in space. They're not moving. This just moved, and this is getting closer to moving, Saturn. So this is really important. We have these two, and then, Neptune just isn't moving very fast either. So very powerful, even in and of itself. Okay, what else? I go about that. What else can I share with you? So here now we got the end of the Aquarian moon. It will go opposite of um, up here. I'm looking right at it. Mercury. There may be, sometime on Sunday or Saturday. I'm sorry, let's see if it's back here. Yeah, I got it like Saturday in the afternoon. So, it could be all Saturday. There could be some drama coming out in the news, some gossip, some big detail, big drama. Yeah, with the moon there, and then maybe some rebellion, maybe some words, maybe some actions. This is kind of an interesting. And then here with Mars over at 14 degrees, not in a good communication with the moon. There could be some drama or some stuff, some crap thrown at the fan, kind of an energy on Saturday. So just watch that. If somebody throws crap at you, you don't have to respond. All right. Sunday moon, later in the day, we'll move into Pisces. Then it will, join up with the North Node the next day, coming into Monday, Sunday, Monday. So we really have maybe a more reflective time, going more inner. And then as the moon goes into Pisces, it's going to, trine over to Jupiter and the sun. So, and then it'll, uh, yeah, make that nice sun moon trine in the water signs. Very reflective, very, I want to say psychic and maybe hyper emotional as well. Very, very emotional. The other way though, it would be more emotional if it were the sun was, they were flipped. But I think this could be very intuitive. I think this can be very a really good time to, seek inner guidance, pray, meditate, seek your guides, get a reading done, do something to really pull in this cosmic time here of the sun in beautiful Cancer and trining the moon as it goes through um, and Pisces. So and then as it gets close to the North Node. So that could be a real spiritual time, a real inner guidance, or something where we're, getting some of this new light, some of this new energy, some of this new faster pace, some of this Geminian energy, Geminian, and grounding it, bringing it in. I think it's a kind of be a new theme. It's like, are you grounded? Are you wearing grounding shoes? I think Earthing has several pairs of grounding shoes. I think we need to wear that kind of stuff. Really watch for extra arcs of energy. So yeah, enjoy this Pisces moon. I think it will be really, it might be great for sleep, dreaming, journaling, writing, poetry, music, um, intuition. Yeah, it's a real nice time for that. So Sunday into Monday, and coming into Tuesday, as the moon finishes up. Yeah, we're still in the afternoon. Late Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then we'll be back next week when the moon is, going over Saturn and Neptune, and then squaring up over to these signs. But we got a nicer week, and it's still not real. I think a lot of the energies, again, we're not those degrees aren't quite problematic. They're not gonna. We've already hit a lot of the bumps for a bit. I think we've got some kind of chill a little bit. Other than the one thing that I mentioned to you. And then is that it? Let's see, we have moon coming in on the 15th, going into Aries. Yeah, we said yeah, I know what else I'm gonna mention. And we're getting really, really close to Mercury retrograde. So it's going to retrograde and then be in Leo here. Yeah, so we had Mars there. Now we got Leo, now we got Mercury there for a while. So we're not going to get out of this dramatic energy or this energy from the heart. Also, Leo is also from the heart. It's also communicating generosity and the light. It's like it's the rule. The ruling planet is the sun. So the sun, being in Cancer right now, putting its attention on home. I think it's important that we really call out evildoers that are trying to annihilate people's homes. There's these really, really big people that are world leaders that there's all these conversations about homes. There's people genociding huge strips of land. Um, this stuff has got to stop. And these people that are behind it, this is kind of this energies that we're talking about. It's this homeland, this security where we've got the sun while it's still in Cancer. It may change when it moves into Leo. It might get way more dramatic, but we still have Mercury retrograde in a couple of days. There it is, like next week. See Friday station, and yeah, retrograde on next Saturday. So we're at that middle degree. This is kind of one of the funky degrees, the 15 degrees Leo. Um, right in the middle of that. So there's kind of the rub, but it's getting blessed there from Venus. We've got a we've got a masculine sextile going on over here, right? Right. So we'll talk about this next week. But anyway, we've got a little love coming on over here, but it's still going to be dramatic. It's still, Mercury, it's like the sign of the twins roaring. So here's, get ready for that. It's going to get a little loud. So get ready, get your stuff done. You still have a little bit next week, but still don't wait. It is slowing down. Look, it was at 15 degrees, and then here we are at 12, right? So it's 3 degrees away from retrograde. Don't mess around. All right, I think that is it for this week. It's kind of chill, so take advantage of it. Much love, everybody. More to follow. Bye for now.